Welcome back, Phillies and General Colts, to a Brony Plays Minecraft. We are here at the crafting table, ye olde crafting table. The only crafting table, the best crafting table, putting in some rubber at the power furnace so that we can start making some better heat items. So at the so the problem was, or I don't know if it was the problem, but part of the problem was that I was using coolant instead of heat vents, which was very silly of me. So here's the difference. Coolant, as I've said before, is like a sponge for heat. It soaks up heat, it stores that heat, great. But once the coolant is dead, then the reactor will continue to generate heat and explode. Now it'll be contained, but then you have to rebuild your reactor, which is what happened. So heat vents are a way around that. Heat vents will take heat from something like a cell or an exchanger or whatever. They'll take heat and they will get rid of it. They will cool it down. So heat vents actually cool stuff. Coolant doesn't. Now, in addition, we're also going to make a heat exchanger. We've made 4 heat vents. We're going to make some heat exchangers as well. Heat exchangers move heat from one thing to another. Now, I wanted 2 heat exchangers, so excuse me while I get the supplies. All right, there we go. So now we should have our ready to make our second heat exchanger, and this will take heat from a cell, like a uranium cell, or from some other component, and it will move it inside the reactor. So the heat will move from the cell, the uranium cell, to, say, the heat vents. I almost forgot my dense copper plating. And it'll go into the heat vents, the heat vent will disperse it. Now this is really important because we're going to be using 2 uranium cells, just like we were before, but we're going to put them next to each other. And putting uranium cells next to each other is a great way to increase the amount of stuff that you produce, like the amount of power, but it also increases the amount of heat you produce. So we need extra cooling powers, which is why we have 4 heat vents. 1 heat vent is usually enough to take care of a single uranium cell, not always, but 2 heat vents is pretty good. 4 heat vents is what we're going to need for this setup here. And we don't want the, we don't want them next to it. We want them to have heat dispersed to them. So we'll use this heat exchanger to move heat from the cells, there we go, over here. Now I've pulled up some coolant cells to just kind of demonstrate a little thingamajigger. If we put the coolant cells in, you'll see that there are some effects. There are damage bars that appear, which is not actually what I wanted to happen. If you move them away from the heat exchangers, they're not going to soak up heat, but right now they will. Now these coolant cells should work okay. Well, so what happens? I figured we'd take this other coolant cell and put it in, right? Damage bars moved around a little bit. Looks okay. Yes. Let's go ahead and turn on the, we'll turn that on first. Make sure it's working. Yep. You can see the power going down. Force energy, that is. So the projector runs on 4 cesium. The projector does not run on actual IE2 energy. So what we really need to do is at some point put an EU splitter in so that we stop sending EU to the extractor. But for now, that's all working. We're going to start this up. We've got that little bit of coolant in there just to try and use it up so it's not taking up inventory space anywhere. And right away you'll see that the heat vents are getting some damage on them. So watch the damage values. The heat exchanger damage value is increasing, and now the heat vent is going up by 10s, 30 to 40 to 50, and the damage bars are taking hits. In other words, they're getting hotter and more damaged. Now we could try putting another coolant cell in, but coolant cells don't actually cool things. Coolant cells store heat. They take heat from other stuff and store it. The thing is that this heat exchanger is, see look, this coolant cell isn't even doing anything. There's nothing next to it that's really generating heat, so it's not storing it. This coolant cell, however, if you watch the damage values again, 38, 26, 14, the values are actually going down, and that bar is very slowly replenishing. Additionally, the heat vents and heat exchangers there are taking damage, and as soon as I took that away, look at that, they start, yep, the heat vent is going back down, and you can just see everything restoring. So what was happening was the heat exchanger was taking heat stored in the coolant cell and putting it to the heat vents. which is a little obnoxious. It was cooling the coolant cells and it was regenerating the coolant cells, but we don't actually need the coolant cells to be regenerated. Notice that throughout all of this, the top set never took any damage. Well, they've got damage bars, but they're not really taking damage the same way the other things are. And the other things seem to have been regenerated a little bit. Indeed, the same thing's happening again. We put this in. The coolant cell now is taking some damage, but we don't need it. We just don't need it. So heat vents are what get rid of heat. Heat exchangers move heat around. Now the heat vents we have in the reactor now will not actually help to keep the core itself cool, but it's working for now. The core's not going to get hot anyways. Let's take a look at this bat box. 3224. And yes, 3736. All right, slowly we're getting energy. Just a little over 500 energy at a time, it looks like. Yep, 312. But we are getting energy, which means that some of that energy should be going through the, some of it should be split up and coming down to the extractor. The force energy extractor, that is. And you can watch the bar at the bottom there. 100, yep. So we're slowly, very slowly, extracting energy out of the forcesium and putting it into the, well, stuff. Moving right along. Industrial electrolyzer. Now that we have everything working, this is what's really going to help us do stuff. Take a look. It's got all sorts of recipes. Very fancy. Generally, you're taking powders and putting them in here, and you can see there's varying EU costs. But this one is a sulfuric acid cell. Looks pretty pretty. You know, we're going to try something small. And see, these things are obnoxious. If the pulverizer runs out of energy, it just pulls more energy, and it, you know, goes a little bit slower. Where'd that go? Okay, that went over here. It shouldn't be pulverizing things with a pipe attached. But the industrial electrolyzer uses all that energy at once. Ta-da! It works, but it only worked on what? A small amount. Notice that we can use blaze powder. We have something to do with it now. But what I want to do with this is, if we back up, oh, here's the coal dust. It took 2,000 EU, which we had 2,000. What I want to do now is use the sand, turn it into silicon. Now, the thing is, this sand cell requires 25,000 EU, and all of that has to be present at once. I'm just going to put these away. So if all of that EU is present and ready to go, great. If not, well, you know, not so great, basically. So we're just going to grab the sand and put this in. The bat box should be holding plenty of EU, because if it's not holding enough, the thing just won't work. And I think we will see that in the next episode, I think. Now it does take us, it does take its sweet time. Yuck, taking forever. If we come over here to look at the bat box, you'll see that the bat box hasn't actually dropped in power very much. It's starting to. But all of that needs to be available at once. Now the MFSU isn't really going to store things until the bat box is full. And once the things are in use, the bat box is never going to be full. So again, you know, we may not actually need the bat box, but whatever. So we've got this industrial electrolyzer. Actually, the bat box is really good for smaller things. But the problem with this setup is that, like the bauxite, we really wanted the industrial electrolyzer so that we could blow up bauxite and turn it into aluminum. We've got some silicon cells and a compressed air cell, excellent. So what we really need to do is we do have to get rid of the bat box, because the industrial electrolyzer will never run off of bauxite, since bauxite uses up a lot more energy than the sand or what? Is the sand or the other thing did? I don't know what I'm looking for. Oh, I'm looking for more sand. I need another silicon cell, and you'll see what I want them for in a little bit. So we won't be able to do bauxite in the industrial electrolyzer right now. The energy simply isn't there. What we'll have to do is let the MFSU build up energy. So let the bat box build it up, and then let the MFSU build it up, and pull straight out of the MFSU. What I'm really looking for out of the silicon cells is some of the silicon. So we have silicon cell. I want to make silicon plate. Now I'll need an industrial blast furnace, but I can turn 2 cells into 1 silicon plate, as long as some empty cells. Industrial blast furnace is going to be a thing in itself, a challenge in and of itself. But let's take a look at what it needs. Unfortunately, we can't use the regular blast furnace for this. It's rather obnoxious. Somewhere, lots of other industrial things. There we go, blast furnace. We're going to need, right, an advanced machine block, induction furnaces, which themselves require advanced machine blocks, and cupronickel heating coils. I think we have to make those in the rolling machine. So it's going to be expensive. It's just going to be a bunch of crafting again, which I understand last video was kind of crap, but crafting video, it's what it is. And so really, I think next time I ought to just speed up the crafting part. Tricky part is that running it while fast and trying to narrate at the same time just doesn't work that well. Not with the way I have it set up. Although I think there might be a way around it. But anyways, we're going to move on. Booster tracks. Yeah, boosting all over the place. Going to boost. So much boosting. Boostage. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Boosting. There's several types of booster tracks. There's this advanced rail, which the regular booster track requires some advanced rail, or some regular rail, which we can make really nicely with steel now. So 6 of these steel go into 16 standard rails. Wonderful. We also required gold and blaze powder, which blaze powder is free. So here's the wooden booster track, which requires some high-speed rail. We've got this high-speed rail stuff, which, oh, that's a little different. That requires steel and blaze powder, and we only get 6 in gold. So it seems like it's, hey, right away, but we only get 6 high-speed rails. So we've got booster track, advanced rail, you get lots of steel, lots of advanced rails. High-speed booster track, not as much. And then when there's reinforced rail, which we really don't actually need. It requires tungsten steel anyways, or obsidian and steel. Now, we might have steel. We could probably make steel easily enough, and we could probably make obsidian dust easily enough, but they only make 6. Like, to do this right, you really need to be using tungsten steel, and that's obnoxious. And we don't really need reinforced booster tracks anyways. So we're going to use regular old booster rails, I think. Here, that's 6 per 6, so that means 6 per the thing. It's 6 steel. This is 3 steel makes 6 of those. Yeah, 3 steel makes 6 high speeds, so 3 steel makes 6 things. Or we can use 6 steel and we get 16 rails. And then we need 3 of those rails. So yeah, the regular booster track is most efficient for steel. It's I think it's the best use of steel if you're a little low on steel. That's what you do. Although gold is rare enough. I mean, it's not super rare. We've never really been, well, there's been a few times we've been a little short, but we've never been like dangerously short on gold. But if you were, you'd want to use either the wooden track, which is a little bit better for gold conservation, or properly you'd want to do it with the reinforced rail. Now, reinforced rails and reinforced track might be really good anyways because creepers won't blow them up, or at least that's my understanding. I haven't tried that out yet. We'll have to see. Alright, well, we've got our standard rail. What are we looking for next? Well, let's go check on this stuff. Alright, the bat box is recovering from the silicon, but we have enough in there to run a second unit of sand if we need to, or are we on third? Hey! Finally getting more force energy supplied into the capacitor. That's excellent. It's about time. And how's this doing? Look at that, doing perfectly fine. Yeah, things are taking a little bit of damage, but they're all taking damage evenly. So as long as we just keep an eye on it once in a while to make sure that the heat vents aren't failing. When the heat vents start to fail, then we've got problems. In the meantime, the force energy extractor is busily extracting force energy out of forcesium. It's crazy how much it goes, but whatever. Maybe if we had a slightly more power, it'd be okay. Well, time for the door. Alright, moving along. Time to make the rails. We've made some of these rails out of the steel, and we've got the redstone, and we have the gold ready to go, so we're going to start rolling out high-speed rail. Not high-speed. We're going to roll out advanced rails, right? Not high-speed rails. Nope. Even though we have the blaze powder, which, it really is great for high-speed rails. They're actually probably maybe a bit more efficient. I'm not sure. The problem is high-speed rails don't use, I don't think they use standard rails during their construction. Maybe they do. No, they use 3 blocks of steel. Right. So they're not very steel efficient, but the blaze powder is basically free. And for the same gold cost. Well, no, not for the same gold cost. This gold cost, we get 3 gold per 8 rails. But if you're making high-speed rails, I think you only get 6 actual rails, which is fine because for each recipe, it's only as much as you need. And it really takes 3 recipes to get a least common denominator. So for 24, that's the thing. It is a little cheaper on gold to use the regular rails, but whatever. So we're going to need to make sure that we get some rail beds. Moving along the rail beds, we put that away, put this away, get the bucket. Let's get our materials together. There we go. We've got buckets, and we have slabs and more buckets. I'm just going to stick these in here. Ta-da! 10 ties. 10 wooden ties, which is a terrible number. I need a multiple of 4. So I'm going to have to go down and get some more. Let's go grab 2 more creosote oils. And the whole thing is very chemical, very story. Yeah, just peek around. Watch out. So there's this little bug, if you haven't noticed. It's a little weird. It makes one of the buckets like kind of invisible. There we go. And I'll just up there. Found it. Found it, guys. We're good. Oh, did you like the little glowstone I put back there? Yeah, I thought so. It's pretty finashing. Wait, is that a word? That's not a word. Anyways, it's pretty awesome. Okay, 2 more ties. There we go. And we could make wooden posts, but I do not want to make wooden posts. I want to make rail beds. Yes, we have 3 of these, which is enough to make 3 sets or 3/4 of a stack of booster track. And that leaves us with 6 advanced oh, that was awfully silly. Alright. If you hadn't noticed, we were a little off on our calculations. We have a full stack of booster track now, and we're ready to try it out. It's late afternoon, but that's okay. We're going to start sticking these around at little bits here and there, so there's some track. We're just going to go around and pull it up and replace it with the booster track. Huzzah! We're off to an excellent start. And even though the sun is setting, we'll start going through and adding booster track. Now this booster track on its own isn't going to do a whole lot. We'll need a way to power it, which usually involves redstone torches, but that's going to get expensive, putting redstone torches everywhere. So I'm going to look into using a player detector, where as you roll over it, it will detect a player is around, and it'll be like, oh look, hello person, and it'll power the rail just for you. Alright, so that's coming up in the next episode. We're going to get this properly running, and do some other stuff too. Yeah, it's about time we went back to magic as well. So we're going to get the rails running, and we're going to take out the spider and go do some magic. Alright? Just while we're down here, let's put some torches. Alright, sounds good. So, folks, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on trotting.